when talking to people in California about floods in Pakistan or floods in Chennai, it's unrelatable, right? So when talking to people in Pakistan or India about LA wildfires is unrelatable.
Right.
Bangalore, there's an air pollution problem.
Yeah.
Not too many people want to discuss it, and then the obvious thing is it's not as bad as Delhi. But yeah, I mean that's the worst benchmark to have.
City people trying to solve for city problems with their city knowledge.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel like, okay, it's the government's job. It's some non-profits are also working on it.
You tell me what is the translation of climate change in Hindi.
Thank you so much, Jai. Thank you so much, Tulshe, for joining me on the Story Bar podcast today. So pleased to have you guys with me.
Likewise, Gayatri, we are super excited to be here.
Tell me one thing. Why should three of us sit here today and talk about climate change? Why do you think that will make a difference?
People are quite disengaged. Like people are like, oh, okay, it's interesting you're working in climate, but beyond that, they don't get into it too much. Even say the clients that we work with, they're interested to know a little bit what's relevant to them, but not much beyond that. And that is honestly the crux of the problem. Why we're not moving ahead is because people don't feel like, okay, I can actually contribute. We're really keen. I think we've been kind of working behind the scenes a lot more. Now we're very much keen to put this conversation out there and have a fairly informal discussion. I think a lot of it, like we were discussing earlier, can get preachy and get very disengaged, but for us it's to make it engaging for people.
There are so many jargons. I never feel that I'm part of a conversation like this, and I'm not the only one. When I say this, it comes from an observation and experience of other people I know as well. So I think, you can add to it, like, why do you think this conversation matters today, and why do you think that people are not really engaged at the moment?
So earlier when we used to talk about climate, it was ice caps melting somewhere, polar bears, then they are suffering somewhere. And talking about LA fires, right? I live a couple of miles away from LA in San Diego, and the entire city is burning as we speak. So when talking to people in California about floods in Pakistan or floods in Chennai, it's unrelatable.
Yeah.
Right? So when talking to people in Pakistan or India about LA wildfires is unrelatable.
Right.
So now the fact that it's hitting home, people are definitely asking a lot more questions. Earlier, we used to spend a lot of time. Let's say we had about 15 minutes with a CEO of a company, right? We'd spend 20 minutes on the why before even talking about, after talking about what and how, those wouldn't even be a part of the conversation, right? So now, if we are getting 30 minutes with somebody, they quickly want to skip to the how, even without spending time on the why and the what. So I think the conversations are definitely shifting. People are getting more curious about what is their role and what can they do about it. And that's progress. That's progress in some sense.
And do you think, like, when we say, when you mentioned LA fires, right? Now, my personal observation is that whenever something big like this happen, even though it's unrelatable or, it's happening in some part of the world, it always takes an incident like that to, everyone suddenly sparks a conversation on social media or in their circles. Why do you think it's like that?
Honestly, each one of us and anyone we speak to in this space as well, I think they've all had their own journey, and I think pivotal moments are what I call, trigger points, right? Where either they watched something, they read something, they met someone, or they heard a talk or a podcast or something which actually got them to start engaging with this subject. And definitely I think each incident will happen, there will be a little bit of news, a buzz around it, and then it kind of dies out, and then there's the next thing that happens, right? And unfortunately that's true with most social issues, environmental issues, even political issues. Once say elections kind of get over, then people go back to their lives not really thinking about politics and government, right? But in climate, I think we've also again moved from this whole concept that everyone needs to change. That would be the goal and that is the hope, but the reality is there are fewer very targeted people that actually need to change and start implementing different ways of working, and we feel like honestly with each incident there's an incremental change that is happening, and if you are able to observe that and actually appreciate it and take that as a motivation. But I'm sure the communities that have been affected, we know, say for the wildfires, there's a whole insurance industry. I think they're pegging it at, I don't know, 60 billion or something like that. A ridiculous number, right? That is going to get impacted by it. So people will now start reconsidering how am I insuring, say, things in LA. And those are actually the tactical people that need to start implementing sustainability, climate action into their work. So yes, there is buzz and maybe the general folks are moving out, but the people who need to start taking notice, I feel, are taking notice. They are connecting the dots. So again, we I guess have to be foolishly optimistic, but we are optimistic that with each incident now, and people are recognizing and taking the necessary steps. So yeah.
Right. Tell me about Zero to Positive. Tell me about what inspired the idea of coming up with this organization. Why the name Zero to Positive? And just help me understand what you guys do and why you do it.
So it was back in 2019 when I was evaluating a phenomenal agriculture policy. The government, World Bank, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundations, a lot of these people had come together to spend, again, a lot of money on agriculture interventions. There were seeds that were being given out to the women that constituted about 44 different kinds of seeds to make a balanced diet, right? But the seeds never bore fruits because there was erratic rainfall. There were dry patches, right? And when I made the policy recommendations of climate smart agriculture, very nicely put aside, right? Because environmental factors are external factors.
External.
Right? So that got me thinking about how literally all our development interventions are going to be impacted by climate. So then the vision became to make everything climate compatible. And then Jai and myself, we went on this journey to understand what does climate mean to each stakeholder, to each state. And it was very interesting to come across how filmmakers thought about climate, how lawyers thought about climate, how students thought about climate, how teachers thought about climate. And nobody had any clue about how the environment is going to impact the kind of work that we do, what the climate risks are, that tomorrow there is going to be flood, and what do you do in that situation? How do you handle your infrastructure? So that led us to thinking about, how do we engage all these stakeholders on climate change? And that exploration journey led us to founding Zero to Positive. Zero to Positive means net zero to net positive. We don't think that net zero is really the end of it all. I think we need to do better. So very simply put, Zero to Positive means doing less bad, transition to doing more good.
My personal journey definitely wanted to do something that felt kind of impactful and that actually improves society. And it's an interesting trend that we're seeing with a lot of people who are either young professionals or people entering the job market today are saying, I want to work on something that I'm passionate about, that has some purpose. People do feel very disengaged at work actually, and that's a big challenge today, right? And you even speak to folks who are people or HR heads, they're also describing how they're finding it very hard to retain younger employees, right? Because they're saying that they just leave. And earlier the thought process was, you join a company and you stay forever. Now, even 3 years, 5 years, they're like, oh wow, you've stayed for so long, right? So that's why I started working at Sattva Consulting, did some social impact consulting there, worked with CSRs, worked across different themes, education, health, non-profit, women empowerment, and sustainability. And personally, that was something that I was most drawn to. I think each person does care about something. I mean, through conversation that actually you get to surface that. So for me, sustainability was something I was drawn to, and I felt like, hey, this is something that we haven't figured out yet, and that requires more attention. So that was one kind of key experience at Sattva, where I was actually able to understand this is what I want to work on. And then I think fast forward a few years and experiences, Zero to Positive kind of really came about from saying that there is this problem. We all admit that, not we all, but like we, at least the two of us admit that, and we feel like other people are not appreciating this enough, and what we were saying and why this conversation is because it becomes disengaging. Like, it took us so many years, such a reflective journey, to actually get to a point where we appreciate that, hey, this is a problem, it requires fixing. And I'm sure we both have gone and still go through those phases where we feel like, oh, it's too much, this problem is way bigger than us, we're heading in the wrong direction, and all of those aspects are very real thoughts. But I think we've had them enough and had conversations, step back as well, that we've realized that, hey, okay, but we're still gonna continue to work on this. So that's the kind of mental aspect which came about to why we started the organization. And of course, we both have a consulting background, and we feel like supporting, guiding people to actually demystify and unpack what sustainability, net zero, ESG, all these terms mean for them is integral. And we're also figuring out our feet and what exact role we should be playing in that.
We did think about, are we consultants, are we educators, are we facilitators of knowledge? And we're still trying to figure out who we are in this journey, because again, like I said, climate means so many different things to so many people, and there is no one approach that can be taken. So one thing that has stayed true to us is meeting where people are at. So if you are the person who is using the word eco-friendly, sure, let's unpack what eco-friendly means to you. If you're the person who's using green, let's talk about what green means to you, as opposed to us talking about what climate action and sustainability mean.
I love that, because the industry that I am into, customer experience, this is something that we talk about, that meet customers where they are in their journey, instead of having your own set of vision and direction and not really understanding what exactly they are going through in the life cycle or in the journey, right? What do you think is that people are able to, or people are ready to accept about the problem that is climate change? I know that sustainability is a big problem. Now I'm at that point where I would buy one sweater and I would wear it for the next 10 years, because I've realized that sustainability is a problem. I'm ready to accept that in front of you, that I've been that person who used to purchase a lot of items, no matter clothes, accessories, digital, whatever. But now I'm that person. I'm still wearing a broken watch. You'll see here, I am not changing it. It's been there for the past 2 years, and I'll wear it. I'm not even getting it repaired, because I know there is a cost to that. Not in the terms of monetary price, but the idea of sustainability. So this is where I am coming from. So in that sense, have you met people like, people like us who are coming to you with this statement that you see, I know this is a problem and I'm not able to solve it, so how should I go about it?
Yeah, I think that's a great personal example. So thanks for sharing, and thanks for wearing a broken watch. I want to say that the transition of sustainability as a lifestyle to sustainability as a value is starting to begin.
Yeah.
So you have imbibed as an individual sustainability as a value, as opposed to going to farmers markets because it's a lifestyle, but truly understanding at the cost of what.
Yeah.
Right? So I think there is some degree of acceptance that sustainability has adjacent values like solidarity, caring for the planet, caring for the future generation, that this is our own common resource, and therefore asking the questions about the cost of what.
Yeah.
So I would say that the transition from looking at green or sustainability as a lifestyle to looking at it as a value and a mindset is beginning to happen, and that is so exciting for us. And therefore I also mention education, right? Because education is so important. Education is the fundamental of behavior change, and internally within Zero to Positive we talk about awareness, intent and action journey, right? So we believe that that's the first step, is being aware of the problem, and then once we are aware, there is an intention to do good action, and that's where we talk about how can we enable you with tools and resources for you to be able to act.
Right. So help me understand the kind of folks you're working with, the kind of organizations or businesses you're helping? If you could just shed some light on that.
Sure. So I think our goal is to work with honestly anyone who we feel is ready. I think we've intentionally figured that is the target segment because, like I said earlier, the hope is that everyone starts adopting this, but the reality is, it's maybe 6%, 10% or 15% of the actual population that actually needs to change the way they look at sustainability and integrate that into their everyday lives. So anyone who we feel is ready, right? And when we say ready, what does that mean? I think someone who appreciates, yes, it's happening. So when you were saying that, what is the sentiment of sustainability amongst people that we engage with? I think the people who we speak to and say that, yeah, it's happening, I agree it's happening. Now tell me what I can do about it, right? And going from that, like Tulshe was saying, the why to the what and the how, those are people we're ready to engage with. We're like, okay, let me tell you. And then there is a quick kind of learning curve of saying, this is what the industry is doing, this is what the globe is doing, this is what the country is doing. And now we kind of bring it back and contextualize it to them, right? So that is the hope of our target segment. But specifically today, who we're working with, I think we have two broad segments. One is the corporate side and one's the non-profit side. Tulshe kind of leads the non-profit, I lead the corporate side. So very quickly on the corporate side, we're further targeting into MSMEs, suppliers, exporters, because the ball is rolling thanks to the larger players. In India, we have policy where the top 1,000 listed companies have to report about sustainability. Europe has their own policies, and the general trend around corporate disclosures is increasing. And whether you call it ESG, sustainability, you can put whatever label, but the point is people are realizing there is a non-financial cost and impact that every business has, right? And that's really what we support organizations to do, which is measure, communicate, and actually improve their sustainability work. So with the corporates, we focus on the MSMEs and the exporters, and on the non-profit side, we're really working across, and maybe I'll get Tulshe to add more. And I think a couple more stakeholders we're interested in is the education sector, so working with schools, universities, getting students to practically engage. It's not, yes, curriculum is important and you should teach climate change, but let's run a climate hackathon, right? Let's run something that is actually getting students into the real world right now, where I can give them some sort of a case study from my everyday work. And we actually did that with a group where it was a career simulation. So this was 6th to 8th grade students in an international school, and they were sustainability consultant for 2 months, and they measured their house's footprint, their business or their cafe across the street, they measured their footprint. So we want to do things like that, which is very practical. So that's one group, and the other is around kind of the startups, the funders, investors. That's another key area, because a lot of sustainability challenges, climate challenges are not solved yet. So we need new products, services, innovations to come up. So those are two other groups that we're interested in engaging in. And maybe Tulshe, you want to share more?
On the non-profit side.
Yeah, I could do a quick one, but I will also want to add to what Jai said about working with climate deniers, right? So time is an interesting factor that we have taken note of. It's not like the social issues of poverty or gender that have been going on for centuries, and there have been people working on it for centuries or decades now to try and solve for it. Climate is happening now, it needs to be resolved now. So when you add the element of time into problem solving, I think that changes the entire way of how we look at things. Therefore, do we have the time to engage with the deniers and take them on a journey of, I guess not, right? I would rather work with somebody who is showing a little bit of interest. Can we make them champions of climate action? Let's do that. Can we set great examples and make them models to scale across India, the globe? Let's make that happen, right? So that's why the target audience for us is very, very clear, is the people who believe that climate change is happening and they want to do something about it. And by the way, this learning has come from, after we say that we went on listening tours, open listening tours, while I was mentioning to you about the different stakeholders that we listen to, and it's been a learning from that journey. Coming to our non-profit side of work, now non-profits do some phenomenal work on the ground, right? Who's talking about gender equality, who's talking about human justice, who's talking about children at risk. Now the social missions that they work on needs to be protected, and therefore the non-profits need to understand how climate is going to make the women doubly marginalized, how the children who are already at risk are going to be further at risk because of the climate impacts. So what we help organizations do is essentially that today, do you understand how your mission is at risk, and how can you, I'll again use the word of climate compatible, how can we make your programs, your development efforts compatible to the changing climate? By that, I think simply put, they should be able to withstand the shocks better. Another something is that there are many small community-based organizations. They can't afford big consulting firms to come and speak to them. Who's looking at them? Right? So I think with the vision of zero to positive, it's as much outer facing, but we are designed in a manner where we definitely want to be a lean team, and we collaborate with experts. So one day you're from Bihar, one day it would be amazing to have a girl from Samastipur, Bihar on Zero to Positive's team who can actually impart the climate knowledge and help the industries in and around her area to be more climate resilient. And I'm also coming to the fact that myth to bust would be, you don't need a certification or a degree to do climate action. You need passion and some tools to help you do climate action. And that's really the direction that we want to take, as much as it is about contributing to businesses and non-profits missions and strategy and all of that. It's about how do we engage more and more people in the back end to be able to do climate action with ease, in a seamless manner, and in a language that they speak. Language is so important in this space, because we English-speaking people, how much of a problem do we solve for? And another interesting observation was that it's city people trying to solve for city problems with their city knowledge. That's not how we are going to solve for climate change, right? So I think India definitely has such a powerful opportunity to lead the sustainability space, and if there's a way for us to be able to bring that out, it would be phenomenal.
I think that's a brilliant point, because I think this is where you are making the conversation more inclusive, and not just the conversation but the action more inclusive. But then armchair activism is real, and it's unfortunate that it's happening for like all kind of social issues that break our heart every single day. Feminism hai, women empowerment hai, rapes hai, climate change hai. And it's sad that climate change is not being discussed the way it should. Break your heart. It should like disappoint you like anything, that okay, this is happening. Why aren't we waking up? Why do we need our building to fall to the ground with an earthquake, and then only we'll realize ki yaar ye cheezein dhyan mein rakhni hai? Why do you think? And where do you think that, I mean, as people who are driving this, I feel it's very difficult to always, be that person that, okay, let it be, let that happen, we'll do what we do. But do these moments come where you are, completely lost ki, hamari baat kaun sunega abhi?
Either one of us.
Activism is very important to make noise, but romanticization with the problem is a big no, right? So we have consciously tried to steer our conversations to be more action oriented and practical. These are the two words that we have heavily used and overused, and that's literally what we are trying to do.
I mean, I think it's a really good question. So a couple of comments. One, I think on the do we have these questions? 100%. I mean, maybe like how many times in a week, we'll count and let you know next time. But definitely on a weekly basis, this question of, are we doing enough? Are we heading in the right direction? We as individuals, we as an organization, and especially working in climate as well, right? So there is doubt for sure, but I feel like it's taken a lot of learning, reflection, stepping back as well a lot to get to a point where we feel like, we're certain. I think we both share a certain level of confidence now that we have to work on this. There's no, once you kind of know it, you can't unknow it, and we have to continue. And of course, there are going to be hurdles and challenges along the way, and that's the nature of the path. So some would call it wisdom, maturity, whatever, but I think it just comes from so many experiences where we've had these very existential questions of, hey, this is kind of going in the wrong direction. Are we? What do we still continue? And I think so far it's always been yes. And I think what really helps is this community of people who are also in this together, right? So today it's the two of us, but we have communities. Tulshe has her communities. I have my communities, where all of us are coming together and saying the same question, right? I have so many people who we literally say, hey, this is quite messed up that this thing has happened. They're like, yeah, it is messed up. And then there is a sense of camaraderie there, right? So I think, and that the good thing is that community is growing, right? More people are coming in and saying, hey, this is also messed up, right? And we're like, yeah, this is messed up. Say in Bangalore, there's an air pollution problem. Not too many people want to discuss it. And then the obvious thing is, it's not as bad as Delhi. But that's the worst benchmark to have, right? Should we wait until it gets as bad to Delhi as Delhi? So I think that is very important for us to keep going and working on it. And I think, like we said, we're kind of almost naive optimists, where it's like, this is going to get better. And I think again, that's kind of come from a lot of reflection and just sitting with these difficult questions. I think a quick comment on the activism. Honestly, I feel, again, try to be optimistic about it, to say at least they're creating a noise about it today. It is a problem, and people are making a connection to say, whether it's LA wildfires, Bangalore flooding, Bangalore heat, Bangalore water crisis, India cyclones, all of these things. People are now making that connection, and people are also feeling it right now. People do discuss, last summer it was so hot, Bangalore's never been this hot. So it starts with that, like you're literally feeling climate change at a certain level, right? So once that happens, people start talking about it. And the reality is, it's not a simple problem to solve, right? It's not just that, I stop using, say, paper, or I stop using plastic and I fixed it, right? Your neighbor's still going to do it. Your family, friends could still do it. So recognizing that there won't be, I feel, one point where we've kind of fixed it. But I think there's a commitment to go in that direction, commitment to believe in the process, and I think I can't overstress the aspect of community. There's such positive case studies, positive individuals who've been doing it way before it was even called climate action, right? So I think that's very inspirational for us to keep going and ensure that we don't let the existentialism get too much.
For 2025, what are you looking forward to when it comes to 0 to positive? Where do you think you want to take 0 to positive, and how do you think people should perceive 0 to positive?
On climate action, we have to speak economics. So this year's focus for 0 to positive would be that so far we had been focusing on behavior change, low-hanging fruit action, and all of that. But I think what is really going to drive real action at scale is if we show the economic value of going green.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
So today, if I can, with the nonprofits, if the nonprofits can see that they are able to raise more funds to be able to impact more people because they are including climate into their agenda, let's make that happen. If businesses are seeing that they can save money by becoming energy efficient buildings across, or with waste, water, etc., let's focus on that. So I think it's also going to be an important learning element for us as to how to bring about finance, funds, and economics into all these conversations. And the classic equation of people, planet, and profit, right? And that's always going to be a challenge to strike that balance. However, I think it's time to attempt to strike that balance now.
Design and communication, I think, while you can have the best financial motive, if we can't communicate that to someone, right?
Yeah,
And different
yeah.
audiences require different types of communication, different incentives.
Yeah.
That's literally human nature at this point, right? So we are really looking to see how we can enhance our communication to various audiences, make it practical, make it engaging, as opposed to, again, jargon filled, heavy, dense, all of those things, which unfortunately a lot of climate feels like today. And we start including sustainability as a design principle in everything we do, whether it's how you live your life, how you design your home,
Yeah.
how you even start designing, say, products and services in your business, and how you run your organization, right? So whether it's you're using a lot of paper, waste management practices, water practices, that all comes from design. Somebody designed this room to be like this, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
those are things that we can actually change, and
Yeah.
so that's a big interest area. Another one I'll just add is around, I think, people and culture. I think recognizing that how we do climate is also very integral, because now the good thing is a lot more people are doing it, but if we do it in the same manner as we've kind of approached other challenges, we personally feel we've tried that and it hasn't worked. So I think what we're really trying to build at Zero to Positive is a different way of doing climate, right? Because so many people are doing climate, but it's how we do it that's actually going to be the big differentiator. So we're trying to work with people, with partners, with other organizations, coalitions that share the same kind of value system and drive and passion and this kind of hopeless optimism to not hopeless. I mean,
We have
this
to be hopeful for sure.
foolishly hopeful,
Yeah.
hopeful optimism, that we can do it. Of course, it's bad, and there are going to be a lot of things that are going to continue to shock us, surprise us.
Yeah.
But we have to keep powering on. So that's what we're trying to do, and we're trying to attract more people as well who share the same sentiment.
Lovely, lovely. And before we conclude, Tulshe, I want to understand from you, what would be that one thing you would say to a 5-year-old to help him or her understand what is climate action?
I would encourage to spend more time in nature. It's so important to go out there and touch the grass as opposed to sitting on the iPad and scrolling through mindless reels.
Yeah.
So once we are out there in the nature, we get to understand the elements of earth, and that in itself is going to spark curiosity and genuine interest.
Lovely. It's been lovely talking to you guys today, listening to you, understanding about Zero to Positive. You guys are doing brilliant work in this space. I wish you a lot of success, and as far as possible, I'm going to spread the word in my network. And of course, when the episode is out, I'll ensure that people check out your page, connect with you, understand what is it and how they can contribute to it. So thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. Thank you for sharing your journey and experiences and your why, because the why, I think, is where people will connect more and more with you. And I instantly connected with Jai when he talked about your venture long back. I think it was 2 months back or so. But the conversation stayed with me, and I think everything that you mentioned today, it's going to stay with people. And I am again foolishly hopeful that they do something because they listen to you or because they came to you for an advice. So thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Garima. Really appreciate you taking the time to do this with us, and looking forward to many more conversations.
Yeah.
But it didn't turn out